Hello friends, in case you are familiar with me and with my channel, welcome back to my channel, welcome back to my little YouTube space, and in case you are not familiar with me, in case this is the first video you watch from me, then I guess welcome, simply welcome. In this video I will be talking about the genetic history of Europeans, but I will be sort of doing it in a review type of way. I will be reviewing my old videos where I discuss genetic history of Europeans, and I will be offering up new insights and new things I've learned over time about this particular topic. So it's gonna be kind of like, for me, it's gonna be kind of like solving a crime where I am also the perpetrator. Pretty cool. But, so for my first videos, the genetic history of Europeans, I published that 2 years ago. I don't remember the exact month. And my second video is Genetic History of Europeans V2. I published that a little bit later. I think 3 or 4 months later, I realized the major inaccuracies I've made, and I corrected myself, sort of, put a little bit more effort into the video, and made a part 2 video. Both of the videos are doing very good on YouTube. So the first video got 482 likes, and the second video got 442 likes. In terms of the dislikes, they did not really get any dislikes. They were definitely quite liked by the community. So the first video gathered, I can't show this to you because of my camera. Hold on, let me move the camera. Yeah, so let me move the camera again. The first video gathered 28 dislikes, and the second video gathered 21 dislikes. So the like to dislike ratio is absolutely crazy. It's 94%. Crazy like to dislike ratio. People definitely enjoyed and appreciated these videos, but I want to say something. They are not that good. I don't like these videos all that much, and we're gonna discuss why right now. So let's start with the first video. Let's begin.
Alright, so this is where we are starting out. This is Ice Age Europe. It's populated by European hunter-gatherers, WHG, VHG, European hunter-gatherers. These people are mammoth hunters, so they go and they hunt mammoths. Europe is really cold at the time. This is before any major migrations into Europe.
Yeah, that's true. It was really cold at the time. It's good that I started with the Mesolithic. I think when you make a video about the genetic history of Europe, you do want to start with the Mesolithic and not earlier, because it gets really muddy if you go further back in time. Like if you go to the Gravettians or the Cro-Magnons, it gets really muddy. You don't really, even geneticists who study these populations and history themselves don't exactly know for sure who is ancestral to who, and who is what mixed with what, and what kind of divergence happened along the way. It is just, the further back in time you go, the more difficult it is to be correct. So it's good that I started with the Mesolithic, and not some other period. I talked about Western hunter-gatherers, which is definitely very relevant. I should have also mentioned Eastern hunter-gatherers, but I think that's coming.
And this is before the Neolithic. Then, in the Neolithic, we see a different situation happening. We see Neolithic farmers coming from the Middle East, deriving from the basal Eurasians.
Okay, no. No. Okay, this is the big inaccuracy. The Anatolian Neolithic farmers were, for the most part, the descendants of Anatolian hunter-gatherers who simply switched from hunting and gathering to farming. They did have a little bit of Natufian ancestry, but for the most part they were natives to Anatolia. They were not some basal Eurasians or any other ridiculous. That's ridiculous. The basal Eurasian ancestry is a small portion of their ancestry, and it's a very... That's just deranged, what I said there. On the right, you see it says mixed with North Eurasians to create Eastern hunter-gatherers. It's true that at some point there was a mixture between ancient North Eurasian-like population and the Western hunter-gatherer-like population, and that spawned the Eastern hunter-gatherers. That did not happen in the Neolithic. So that's once again an inaccuracy that you can see. There's quite a lot of inaccuracies even here at 40-second mark of the video.
Coming into Europe through Greece and the Balkans and spreading farming, the practice of farming into Europe. the ice is retreating from Europe, so the hunter-gatherers are moving north and east, and as well as northwest too. They're moving into Scandinavia. Now this is where it gets interesting. In the east, some of these hunter-gatherers mix with ancestral North.
Okay, that's deranged. That's completely deranged. Transitional cultures, beakers. That's no deranged. I was in my mind at the time, I was thinking that bell beakers were some kind of European farmers before the Indo-Europeans got there. So I just called them all beakers back then. But really, that's very inaccurate. The funnel beakers are one thing. They are European farmers, and I guess that would apply to them. Funnel beakers. Everything that's in brown would be funnel beakers in the north, and globular amphora and Cucuteni tripilia in the south here. So for them, you could say they were quite similar to each other in terms of culture. You could say they were funnel beakers, but in my mind, I was associating bell beakers with that. So once again, big inaccuracy. Bell beakers are Indo-European people.
Eurasians, and create eastern hunter-gatherers that you can see. They're very brutal looking. Look at how brutal this guy looks. Yeah, that's a brutal looking guy.
Yeah, I thought it was funny or humorous that I said that. I still do. I still find it funny. Sue me.
The farmers, they mix with the remnants of the hunter-gatherers in Europe and create European farmers. LBK, Neolithic European farmers, which will later give the basis for bell beaker people.
Okay, that's kind of true. And bell beakers do have a lot of farmer ancestry. So it's kind of true. Some of it is sort of true. But I just got the names wrong, because these are not bell beakers. These are funnel beakers, globular amphora, and megalithic cultures in the west of Europe.
There is a transitional zone between the hunter-gatherers and the European farmers, and meanwhile Greece, the south of Italy,
and there was no transitional zone. In reality, in the culture, these Eastern European and Central European farmers, they were, in terms of culture, agriculturalists. They did not have any hunter-gatherer remnants in their transition. For something to be a transitional culture, it has to incorporate elements of hunting and gathering and farming together. In their case, their society was entirely sedentary, entirely farmer.
These locations are exactly Anatolian farmers, so they don't have almost any hunter-gatherer admixture. Now we gotta start paying attention to the EHG men, because
once again, okay, so we have the Yamnaya, and on the left we have the bell beaker. This is not how it was, okay? I just got the namings all the way messed up. It's not bell beaker, it is European farmer, and Yamnaya is indeed spreading to Europe, and various other cultures related to Yamnaya are also spreading to Europe. Corded Ware is technically related to Yamnaya, but it is not directly from Yamnaya. The paternal lineages don't exactly match up, because Yamnaya for the most part had R1b paternal lineages, whereas Corded Ware for the most part had R1a paternal lineages. But they are related cultures. They are various western steppe herders who went into Europe and mixed with the farmers there, eradicating the farmers, mixed by the virtue of rape and the R word. I can't say that here on YouTube. It's not exactly PC. And R and murder word. That's how they mixed with the farmers, right? They mixed through the R word.
These EHG men were very Eastern hunter-gatherer men. They were very...
I should have mentioned that the Yamnaya and the Western steppe herders in general formed by a mixture of the male Eastern hunter-gatherers with the female Caucasus hunter-gatherers. I neglected to mention that in the video.
Fond of Caucasus women, so they would come down to Caucasus.
Oh, I do mention it, good.
They would have children with their women, with the Caucasian women, and that created, the children grew up to be Yamnaya. They grew up to be Proto-Indo-Europeans. So this Yamnaya later ended up going in all directions, east, west, south, north, all directions, spreading Indo-European languages and culture. Meanwhile, the bell beaker people are getting replaced. They're getting shifted.
Okay, that's crazy. Big problem here once again with the logic, because the Belbikers did not get replaced by the Yamne, they did not get genocided by the Yamne, the Belbikers descend from the Yamne. The Belbikers are the descendants of the people who genocided the farmers in Central Europe. So I labeled the farmers here as Belbikers, obviously very wrong, incorrect.
They gotta change their location a little bit because they're being pushed by the Yamne. So the Belbikers push and reclaim southwestern Europe for the hunter-gatherer admixture people.
That's so deranged. That's so deranged. No, that never happened. That was just my it was just like my theories. That's the way I saw it in my mindset, but it has nothing to do with reality. So once again, very unfortunate that I had to. And this video got 482 likes. So most people don't really know better than to leave a like here.
So the admixture of hunter-gatherers in southwestern Europe rises due to that. And finally, this is pretty much the modern age, when the Yamne mixed with the Belbiker and the Corded Ware people. They created the Corded Ware. So there was the Fatianova Corded Ware.
So Corded Ware is, conceptually it's correct that Corded Ware is a mixture of Yamne or Western steppe herder plus European farmer. Conceptually it's correct, but I got the wording wrong because Belbiker is not synonymous with European farmer. And the way I use this here in this video, it is, I pretty much use it as a synonym for European farmer. So that's unfortunate again. Really inaccurate, major inaccuracy in the video.
In very far northeast, there is the battle axe Corded Ware in Scandinavia and Finland, and this Corded Ware culture is the basis for all Indo-European language speakers. So you see the belt.
I noticed how I labeled the Corded Ware here in purple. The Corded Ware is not a Uralic culture. It is a European hunter-gatherer culture that has to do with Eastern hunter-gatherers. The language they spoke, it is extinct. It is not Uralic, so they are not Uralic speakers. Neither did they have N1C haplogroup. So it's interesting that I labeled Corded Ware here as like Uralic speakers, which they aren't. Totally not the case. Or whatever that means. Maybe what I meant here is that the purple area used to be inhabited by the Corded Ware culture, and then in the dark red or maroon color come the Uralic speakers from the east. Maybe that's what I meant. And in that case, it would be a little bit more accurate. Maybe a little bit more accurate. Still not really, because by the time the Uralic speakers arrived in Northeast Europe, these people already practiced agriculture. They already practiced agriculture and cattle herding. Corded Ware people were hunter-gatherers. So once again, this is maybe more applicable for Northwest Siberia, where they did not practice agriculture and cattle herding. It's not so accurate for Northeast Europe.
Belbikers, they're a big portion of Western Europe, Southwestern Europe. Well, the Basques, modern-day nation of Basques, is actually like pretty much exactly like the Belbikers, genetically speaking.
Okay, no, not really, not at all. The Basques are among the least Indo-European people genetically in the south of Europe. The Sardinians are even less, but Basques they don't have much Indo-European ancestry, whereas the Belbikers are very Indo-European. They are half Yamne, half steppe herder, half Western steppe herder in ancestry. Now let's watch V2. Let's watch the second version. The second version I think is a little bit better. I made it later. I made it at a time I had more knowledge, and let's see what it is.
However, at the time of making that video, I was ill-informed, and the video was to say the least factually inaccurate. I hope that this video will clear up those inaccuracies.
Let's start with the early Mesolithic. In the early Mesolithic, Europe was inhabited.
Okay, yeah, okay, I like this. It's better, because here I mentioned the Eastern hunter-gatherers in the Mesolithic period. I mentioned the glaciers. Yeah, that's good. There's a gradient from CHG to EHG here. Also a really good touch, because there really was a gradient in ancestry from the Caucasus to the east of Europe. Alright.
Inhabited by Eastern hunter-gatherers, Western hunter-gatherers, and Caucasian hunter-gatherers. Ironically enough, Eastern hunter-gatherers fished more than they hunted. At the time, the glaciers
Also true, good stuff.
were melting and European hunter-gatherers started spreading up north. Meanwhile, in the Middle East, there was a drought that caused the Natufians to transition from hunting and gathering into farming. Farming has not yet started to spread into Europe. The Caucasian hunter-gatherers were a mixed population of roughly half Basal Eurasian, half ancient North Eurasian origin. Basal Eurasians were closely related to the Natufians. The Eastern hunter-gatherers were roughly 70% ancient North Eurasian origin and 30% Western hunter-gatherer origin. From ancient North Eurasians, EHGs picked up some rare alleles for blonde hair and haplogroups R. Eastern hunter
Okay, you guys know what I think about that, about the alleles for blonde hair. You know very well that my opinion about this has changed. But let's keep watching.
hunter-gatherers also carried some Caucasus ancestry, although in a small amount. Western hunter-gatherers carried the derived alleles for blue eyes.
Okay, it's good that I mentioned that there were affinities between the Eastern hunter-gatherers and the Caucasian hunter-gatherers. It's true. There is quite a lot of affinity between Eastern hunter-gatherers and various West Asian populations. And this affinity was even stronger with the ancient North Eurasians. So it's good that I mentioned this here.
In the Neolithic, farming quickly spreads from the Middle East all the way into Central Europe. Linear pottery culture of Central Europe derived about 70% of its genome from the Middle Eastern Natufians, and only 30% from Western hunter-gatherers.
They did not derive that much genome from Natufians. At most, it was like 5%. Most of the southern or Mediterranean ancestry in these LBK and European farmers actually comes from Anatolian hunter-gatherers and has nothing to do with Natufians. So once again, this is a little bit of an inaccuracy, where I sort of attributed the entirety of the farming movement to the Natufians. That's not the case. There was independent movements to transition to agriculture in Eurasia that had little to do with Natufians.
There are still small pockets of Western hunter-gatherers scattered around Europe. Meanwhile, the Eastern hunter-gatherers are starting to go down south and mixing with the Caucasus HG women. Steppe cultures are beginning to appear. The steppe cultures were most likely Proto-Indo-European speaking. In the Neolithic...
Okay, I like this. This is definitely a lot better. I mentioned the megalithic cultures, the funnel beakers, globular amphora, Tripilia. It's really good. I like this. I don't see anything I could argue with here.
Western steppe herders appear. Western steppe herders are the result of EHG men mating with CHG women. We can also refer to them as Yamnaya culture because they bury their dead in pits, Yamy in Russian language. In the west of Europe, megalithic cultures dominated, named so for their stone monuments. They derived most of their DNA from Neolithic farmers. In Central Europe, funnel beakers and globular amphora lived. They also derived most of their DNA from European farmers. Those two groups were not Indo-European speaking, but after mixing with Yamnayans gave rise to Corded Ware cultures.
Okay, let's see, hold on. Because I made this, it's me who made this. It's not somebody else, it's my own work. So let's see, how do I agree with it now? The hair and eyes that's deranged. For ancient North Eurasians, that's also deranged. For Motala 12, I guess it's okay, it's kind of accurate. Not really, because they would have slightly darker eyes, but whatever, I agree with it. For Baltic hunter-gatherers, kind of accurate. For LBK and farmers, kind of accurate. For globular amphora and funnel beaker, kind of accurate. For Yamnaya, pretty much spot on. But the Western hunter-gatherer and the ancient North Eurasian hair color and eye color charts, very, very wrong. Completely wrong.
Globular amphora culture and funnel beakers were the first light-pigmented Europeans aside from Motala Scandinavian hunter-gatherers. Western steppe herders mixing with the globular amphora and the funnel beaker culture created the Corded Ware and bell beaker cultures. Both took the Indo-European languages from the Yamnayans. Interestingly...
Okay, yeah, I agree. I mean, it's pretty spot on. Yeah, and there's a little Comware on the top. Pretty cool.
The bell beakers carried haplogroup R1b, similar to most early Yamnaya, whereas the Corded Ware carried mostly R1a. The bell beakers are responsible for the initial Indo-Europeanization of Western Europe.
Yep, that's true.
One thing I need to mention is that in the Copper Age, the Corded Ware cultures of far northern Europe were not Uralic or Finno-Ugrian speaking. These people carried mostly R1a haplogroup and spoke Paleolithic Languages.
Preach.
Uralians don't come into until the Bronze Age. Uralians don't come into Europe until the Bronze Age. In the Bronze Age, the first wave of Siberians start to emerge in Lapland.
Let's see this map. What do I think about this map? Let's look at it. So the problem is that I do not mention the time period of when this is supposed to be. So let's just assume by looking at this that this is some kind of a late Middle Bronze Age map, right? Late Middle Bronze Age map. Is there Baltoslavs here? Not really. The Baltoslavs are occupying a much larger area by this point in time. They're occupying a much larger area to the north and to the east. Here in Latvia and Lithuania, there's the Shinets culture. That's definitely very Baltoslavic, so okay. Nordic Bronze Age seems to be pretty good. Celtic regions seem to be pretty good. Celts also spread a little bit to the Czechia, to Czech region, but it looks like on my map I don't necessarily show that. The Czech region is just in gray. The Aryans or the Iranic people inhabiting this region, Indo-Aryan people inhabiting this region in the steppe is, I guess, pretty accurate, pretty spot on. Hellenic Indo-Europeans here in Greece, also pretty accurate. And the incoming North Siberians, Uralic people, first Uralic people. I think the earliest Uralic samples in Europe are from around this time period, which are in Большой Лений Остров. So this is the late Bronze Age. That's what it looks like to me.
Bringing in with themselves reindeer herding. Indo-Europeans entered Greece and established Mycenaean civilization there. Most of Western Europe was already Indo-European speaking, primarily Celtic. Whether or not the netted ware culture of Eastern Europe was Indo-European or Uralic at this stage is debatable.
It's not really debatable. There is no way these people were Uralic, but okay.
But I tend to consider it Indo-European. Uralic languages...
No, I don't know if it's Indo-European. It's definitely not Uralic, but I don't know if it's Indo-European exactly. Kind of hard to say.
At this point were still not spoken in Europe, in the opinion of the author of this video. In the Iron Age, we can safely say that the Uralian languages have already made their way into Europe.
Okay, Iron Age, let's look at that. Is this correct? Yeah, sort of. Germanic people were making big strides in the Iron Age, spreading pretty much everywhere in Europe. That's definitely reflected by this map. Roman and Latin period, this is kind of like the area where the Rome was, so I guess that's also pretty true. Although there were different ethnicities, and not all of them were Roman, not all of them were even Latin speaking. Greeks here, I show Greeks, I show the Celts here. Alright, it's pretty good, and the Balto Finns are actually pushing north into Finland, and the Samis are pushing north as well. That's accurate. That's good, I made a good map. Alright, let's watch further.
Most of Western Europe was already Indo-European with the exception of Basques and the Iberians.
And I think that's it. Is that it for the video? Yeah, I think that's it for the video. Well, this is a much better video, V2, for sure. There's places it could be improved, but I'd say that if I had to rate these two videos, V2 and V1, V2 I would probably rate like 8 out of 10. You know, because also I made it myself. You know, I'm the creator, so I have to give myself a little bit of leeway. For the first video, I rated solid 4. So definitely a big upgrade from the first to the second video. I don't really like making these maps anymore. I don't like doing mapping and stuff like that. It's too much work. For my content now, I do it a little bit different. I try to put in less work and make the content still enjoyable. Whether or not it is enjoyable, you can tell me in the comments. But this is the version 3 to my Genetic History of Europeans trilogy. I made a trilogy, 3 videos about the same topic. Yeah. Well, thanks for watching. Leave a like and subscribe. Goodbye.